I had a Talmud teacher who used to say at the end of Pesach that what we had to do at the end of Pesach was get rid of all the matzah. We start off by getting rid of the chametz, and then at the end of the festival, our task is to get rid of the matzah. And it was a joke, but he was a Talmud scholar, by the way, this person, Shlomo Naeh. And I'm realizing as we look at the very end of the tractate of Pesachim, that we are actually we are finishing off and getting rid of the stuff. And there's a question of focus and intent. We start by focusing on the chametz and getting rid of it and getting it finished. And we finish actually by focusing on the sacrifice, on the Pesach itself, and getting rid of it and getting it finished in time, without any distractions. So I think this is the key to the end of the Mishnah, that we are not only getting rid of the Pesach, of the sacrifice now, because remember that and we talked about this before, actually, the Masechet and the 10th chapter is focused on the sacrifice because it is still in the world of the Beit Mikdash. It's still in the world of the temple. So we need to get rid of it with focus and intent, and we can't let anything else interfere. We can't let anything else get in the way of getting rid of the Pesach. So, Ein maftirin achar haPesach afikomen. It's a famous Mishnah. It's quoted in the Haggadah. It's the last halacha that you teach to the wise child. Ein maftirin achar haPesach afikomen. We don't add an afikomen after the Pesach. That's the best way of translating it. Now, a friend of mine who's a Greek scholar says, look, an afikomen is just a Greek word for an after-dinner entertainment with dancing girls. And I was struck by the fact that Jastrow, and I brought Jastrow for you in the source sheet, this is exactly what Jastrow says. He says, after the Paschal meal, one must not wind up by saying now to the after-meal entertainment. You can't go to the nightclub. You can't go to the nightclub after you've finished eating the Pesach offering. That's not appropriate. Now, and so this is clearly the Peshat. It's a Greek word. There are very many Greek words, by the way. There's lots and lots of Greek words in the Talmud and the Mishnah. So I don't understand why the commentators don't pick this up. But for example, in the Jerusalem Talmud, Rabbi Simon in the name of Rabbi Inai says it's a minei zemer. It's a pun on the word afikoman. So we're gonna do we're gonna split the afiko from the man. So minei zemer, kinds of songs. Or Rabbi Yochanan says minei matika, kinds of sweets. Or and then Samuel says truffles and chick pigeons and prepared by Hananiah ben Chilat. There's all kind of stuff that you might eat after the Pesach. And the halachic intent is clear that we're not going to eat anything after the Pesach. So that's the halachic intent. But I think the word afikomen does mean sort of a kind of a nightclub type send-off, which we're not going to do. We're not going to do after the Pesach. And we're not going to fall asleep either. Yashnu miktzatan yochlu. If some of them fall asleep, they can eat. Kulan lo yochelu. If they all fall asleep, they've lost focus. They've lost attention to the sacrifice, and they can't go on. Rabbi Yossi Omer Nitnamnu. Rabbi Yossi says, look, if they just snoozed, it's okay. If they snooze, they might eat. Yochlu nirdemu lo yochelu. They fall asleep, they can't eat. It's almost as if they'd eaten it in two places, which is forbidden, or split it between two groups of people. The Pesach has to be eaten by one group of people at one time. And of course, and we've talked before about the fact that it has to be eaten before midnight. It's, if you like, time expires. The Pesach time expires. Got to get rid of it on time. And that's essentially the content of the final Mishnah. Pesach achar chatzot metameh et hayadayim. when the Pesach after midnight makes the hands impure, and the rabbis decree that something makes the hands impure when they want to basically stop you getting into a situation of creating it. So it's a rabbinic injunction. Your hands are considered to be tameh after you've touched the Pesach after midnight. Just as pigul and notar makes the hands impure. Pigul v'hanotar metamin et hayadayim. Pigul and notar, let's just wind back a little bit and look at pigul and notar. There's a verse, we need the verse in Vayikra, v'hanotar mibsar hazavach b'yom hashlishi ba'esh yisaref. What's left over for 3 days has to be burnt. You can't eat it. And if it is eaten, it's not acceptable. The next pasuk says, "Hamakriv oto lo yechashev lo pigul yihiyeh." It's an offensive thing. It's pigul, and the commentators there suggest that even if the priest who's sacrificing it intends to eat it after the 3rd day, it becomes pigul instantly. I.e., pigul is not just something that you leave over, but something that you intend to leave over. Something where you have the wrong intention. So the Pesach makes the hands impure. Pigul and notar makes the hands impure. We can't leave this stuff lying around. Just like getting rid of the matzah after Pesach, we need to get rid of the sacrifice. Berach, Birkat Pesach, Pataret Shel Zevach. There are 2 sacrifices. We've talked about this before. There's the Pesach sacrifice, which is just for Pesach, and there's the regular Chagiga, which we can bring on any festival. And if we recite, well, according to the first opinion, if we recite the blessing for the Pesach, we can eat the Chagiga, but not the other way round. Berach et shel zevach, lo fatar et shel Pesach. If we make the bracha over the Chagiga, we can't exempt the Pesach. The Chagiga is more common. The Pesach is more specific. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael, according to Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Rabbi Akiva says, Lo zo foteret zo, velo zo foteret zo. That they're both individual obligations, and one bracha can't exempt the other bracha. And I must say I am puzzled at this this kind of combination of different halachot at the end of the Masechet, and we know that the end of the Masechet and the end of the chapter is significant. So it's not immediately clear what the combination of the halachot is, but it seems to me, at any rate, or at least the suggestion I offer is that this is something to do with focus and intent. And just as we begin, we begin with light or larabais, where we're going to hunt for chametz at night, but we're going to do it in, if you like, with light. We start with the word light. We clarify the chametz in the house, and we seem to end with focus and intent. We're not allowed to fall asleep. We're not allowed to let stuff hang around. The same halachot apply to other sacrifices. We need the right bracha for the right sacrifice. This Pesach thing that we go through, it's not just something that we go through mechanically every year. It's not something we go through like a robot from year to year. It requires focus and intent. And if we don't have that focus and intent, then we haven't fulfilled the mitzvah.